Work. Whoa.
Talk about a bombshell.
Can't believe it. 6:05. It is good to be here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We are always streaming on your KCMO Talk Radio app. This got national attention last night, and it is the lead story all over Kansas City this morning. From the Kansas City Star, after months of struggling and millions of dollars from the city, the Sunfresh Linwood has closed. The grocery store on Kansas City's east side was locked on Tuesday. A black tarp covered its logo. A sign on its door announced to customers that it would not reopen. Now, the city spent $17 million to acquire and redevelop Sunfresh. It opened in 2018. The nonprofit CBKC took it over in 2022. And just earlier this year, City Council approved an ordinance for the community builders to receive $161,000 in rent relief and $750,000 in expedited funding so that Sunfresh could remain open. And here they are on Wednesday, August 13th, closed. It's interesting because you have a guy in New York City right now who's running for mayor, probably the front runner, and he's talking about, you know what, we're going to lower prices. We're going to have city-run grocery stores. Well, buddy, come 1,200 miles out to your west here in Kansas City and see how that worked out. It failed, and it failed colossally.
Yeah, in a business with a 1-2% profit margin on products.
Absolutely. See how well that will work out for you in New York City. Because we just tried it here in Kansas City, and it failed. And, you know, the mayor of Kansas City, Quentin Lucas, he commented on this a couple of weeks ago on social media, and he said that the grocery store is privately run, having gotten subsidies to get food into communities in need. So, yes, was it privately run? Sure, it wasn't a true city-run operation. But you tell me, when you're a grocery store and the city of Kansas City is dumping millions and millions of dollars into that location, $17 million just to get it off the ground. While it may not be city-run, that's a heck of a generous subsidy. And it still failed. Why did it fail? Safety concerns, theft issues. What then happens? Foot traffic goes down. People don't want to get burglarized outside of the Sunfresh. All these different things stack on top of each other. And eventually, there's not enough customers. And the businesses are like, there's no point in us staying open, even though they got a lifeline from the city of Kansas City just a few months ago. It failed. And in most cases, it's going to when you're talking about some of these locations. Now, the good news is this. There's an Aldi about 7 blocks away. So for all these talks about food deserts, you know, you go to, I guess it would be 31st and Prospect, give or take, and you literally just go 8 blocks to the south. And at 38th and Prospect, you have an Aldi right there, which is fantastic. I mean, who doesn't love Aldi? Come on now. Mark loves Aldi. He's a big Aldi guy.
Oh, yeah. Love getting the quarters out to get the cart.
I know. That's the hardest part, remembering to have a quarter on you. If not, you're waiting for somebody who's coming out the door to be like, hey, can I grab your cart, please?
Oh, yeah. We always keep one in the car just in case.
That you keep quarters in the car just for Aldi?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. That's a loyal Aldi guy right there, Mark Van Sickle. I've never seen you in any Aldi gear, though, man. I need a hat or a T-shirt or something from you.
That's true.
We got to get you hooked up. We got to get that endorsement for Aldi, for Mark Van Sickle, after we get these 17 sports books we're trying to land for him. So yesterday on Fox 4, this went viral. Multiple online social media accounts picked up John Ketz of Fox 4 and part of his package from last night.
I don't understand. We need this store. We do.
Alicia Batson shopped here on Monday and was going to come back here for groceries today. As soon as our interview was done, she started to cry. Part of the reason why she was so emotional may be because of what she told us in the first 30 seconds of our conversation.
What are we supposed to do as a community? Where am I going to go now? Where am I going to go get stuff for my kids?
The good news is There is an Aldi close by. It's less than a mile down the road. But I understand if that Sunfresh at 31st and Prospect was super convenient for her, then this is a blow. That being said, the issues at this grocery store were rampant. Here's what the Kansas City Star reports. Shoppers and employees alike reported safety concerns, with shoppers reporting frequent 911 calls for fights, drug use, and public sex. Teenage grocery shelf stockers were forced to carry tasers. If you are a stock shelver at a grocery store and you got to bring a taser to work, I'm pretty sure you can find somewhere else to get a gig. Okay? That job is not going to be the fantastic job that's going to further your career. You got teenage shelf stockers who have to carry tasers when they're putting, a piece of fruit into the bin. Stock up the bananas. Where's my taser while I'm at it? I don't want to be blindsided here. A couple of cans of soup. Whoops, where's the taser? Stacking in the gallons of milk. Got to make sure I know where my taser is. There's no way to work. There's no way to live. It's also no way to shop. And that's why the consumer is never wrong. They walked out as well. They weren't going there anymore. So you had two things going on here. It was hard to hire. People didn't want to go there anymore. The people that did go there in too many cases were stealing from the place, and the whole thing blew up. And it blew up in the face of Sunfresh. It blew up in the face of Kansas City, Missouri. And this notion from so many, the mayor putting up on social media a couple of weeks ago, we and New York City subsidize sports and luxury housing. I see no controversy expanding access to food and transit too. Okay, so we do some dumb things. Therefore, it's okay to do other dumb things. I understand the subsidy game. I've never agreed with it inherently. I understand it's part of the way business is done. I also don't necessarily believe and don't think that subsidizing a sports team to some extent, as much as I inherently believe based on principle, it's a bad idea. Kicking some money back to the Chiefs, who have a multi-decade history of success and being a big part of the culture and the brand in Kansas City, is the same as saying to a food store, here's $17 million, good luck. Those two things are not equal. And now we have a prime example of why here in Kansas City. It is 6:13 as we get it rolling on a Wednesday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. It's a busy one as well. We've got a lot that we're going to be diving into this morning, especially with you. And I know that grocery store is not a place that many people in Kansas City right now are shopping, obviously. But I think that story matters because it shows you that when this stuff is tried, boy, does it fail, and it fails miserably. Paul's in Kansas City. Hi, Paul. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete, I saw that. On one hand, Mayor Lucas is out in Belton lauding a cold storage plant being opened by the private sector. The next minute, he's responsible for a socialist grocery store closing. And this is stunning. This $750,000 they gave him 2 months ago, they got to investigate and find out where that money went to. This is every Kansas City should be outraged on this.
I will. I'll ask the mayor about it tomorrow morning. That's a good point there, Paul. Thank you, buddy.
Yes, sir. You bet, buddy. Bye.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I will talk to the mayor tomorrow morning at 7:30. We have him on every Thursday at 7:30, and this will definitely be a topic of conversation. Coming up next on KCMO, we hit a big number yesterday, but not the kind of number you want to hit in this country. I'll explain next.
Call Mundo 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
Country hit a brutal number I'll tell you about here coming up in a couple of minutes. Our lead story this morning in Kansas City is a story that's gotten national attention, and that is this Sunfresh at 31st and Prospect that officially shut down yesterday. Got tens of millions of dollars in subsidies from the city of Kansas City, and it has colossally crashed and burned. Steven is on KCMO. What's up, Steven?
Hey, Doc, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How's that wind tunnel there?
I'm loving it. I left my windows open. Sorry. It's good to hear your voice. I hadn't talked to you in a while. I just want to say that I grew up in the neighborhood. I go back to that neighborhood back from the 70s when St. Joseph Medical Center was on that site where that store was back in the 70s. And that neighborhood has digressed a great deal. And they sweep stuff under the rug and don't deal with issues that keep causing symptoms. Like, for instance, when the lady that owned it at one time, they were having problems with people coming in there shooting up the store, and then when the police would get involved, I won't call no names, but you got some of the political organizations down there was mad with the police because the police was too rough on the guys. They didn't have to slam them to the ground, all that. Just recently, I guess it's been like in the last 4 or 5 months, there was a young man that was in there. He had a gun, and the policeman took him to the ground. This is a black policeman, and he took him to the ground, and he how you lay on a person and hold him down. And we was in a meeting, and one of the community leaders was making a big issue about that, telling me he had to do that like that. You can't have it both ways. You want justice and you want safety, but then you get mad when they're doing their job. And so this is the result of liberalism and no structure. And so it doesn't surprise me it went that way. I'm surprised it didn't go away that way earlier. You know what I mean? And then the employees got to come to work. If they be a witness to what's going on, they're threatened by the people that they're having arrested.
Yeah,
that's why they didn't want to come to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all this stuff just feeds on top of each other, and it's not one thing, but there's certainly not a government check that's going to fix any of this because of some of the social rot that you're talking about, Stephen. So good job.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Good to talk to you, man. I appreciate the call. Stephen Lee Summit. What's up, Steve?
Yes, I'm familiar with Aldi's. You brought up the Aldi's. I've been in that store on Prospect there, and they had sale flyers, and those sale flyers, the stuff they had in them was, well, they didn't have the expensive stuff, and was like lobster tails. So I talked with the manager, and says, well, we don't even carry them here because we can't keep them. They steal them. And then I talked with the same thing with the Aldi's manager out there at the St. John and Winter Road in Independence, and they just, if they steal the stuff, they just don't carry it, the expensive stuff. So, and I'm really alarmed now about Blue Springs, the Aldi's on 7 Highway. There's homeless people living behind that, right in front of the United States Post Office there, and nobody does anything about it. And I know they go in there and steal all the time.
Well, here's what I would say to that then, Steve. The deal with the Aldi's down on 39th and Prospect not carrying certain foods because people steal from it, the private sector folks who know they're not getting a city bailout basically adjust based on what's happening in the marketplace around them. That Aldi obviously wants to survive. They won't survive if they keep paying for expensive foods to come in that end up getting stolen, right? So they adjust basically their business model, and they're not going to have certain foods at that Aldi because basically people rob from it. It's just how it works. But they're not putting the hand out saying, hey, city of Kansas City, would you help us out here? Would you kick in a little bit? They just say, no, I guess we can't carry that stuff. It's too bad because there's people that would pay for it, but unfortunately it ends up being a loser for them. So we'll get to more of this throughout the morning on KCMO. Trying to get a couple of folks who will talk about this. Obviously, the mayor will be on tomorrow. But we're not getting a lot of people in and around Kansas City who want to be talking about this story for obvious reasons. It's not exactly a success story for this town right now. In the meantime, the number that I was teasing earlier, $37 trillion of debt we have surpassed in this country. Now, I saw Thomas Massey, he is a representative out of Kentucky, post last night, 10 hours ago. Thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the debt just officially passed the $37 trillion mark. I saw some reports saying that it officially passed $37 trillion over the weekend, but I saw a lot of various folks, including people in Congress, saying that it passed $37 trillion yesterday. I want to put this into some perspective for you here. You go back, not all that long ago, but let's just, for sake of this conversation, all right, let's go back. It's 2025 right now. Let's go back to August of 2015. Our debt in August of 2015 was $18 trillion. That was the tail end of the Obama era. We have now more than doubled that number in 10 years. Go back to 2005, August. We had $7.9 trillion in debt. The debt in August of 95 was $4.9 trillion. So in the last 30 years, we went from 4.9 trillion to 7.9 to 18.1 to now $37 trillion in debt. It's really unfathomable. And I see a lot of members of Congress who voted for a One Big Beautiful Bill that, yes, had a lot of beauty to it, but also had a lot of ugly to it. Okay? A lot of ugly to it. There's no denying that. There's too much spending, and no one has the cojones to rein any of it in. We are now up in U.S. debt $780 billion since the debt ceiling was raised following the signing of the One Big Beautiful Bill on July 4th. That is $22 billion per day. I know we can't even fathom these numbers. I understand it's like talking about monopoly money here. And yes, having higher interest rates is making things worse because we're paying interest on this debt. We'll be having to refinance a lot of this debt at higher rates, and that's ugly. That's only going to make this whole thing worse. But you tell me, what's it going to take to get these people serious about looking at our financial house and trying to get it in somewhat of an order? And if you think like, oh, if we just remove funding to a couple of foreign countries, that'll fix it. No, it won't. Half the budget is entitlements. It's Social Security. It's Medicare. It's Medicaid. Half of it comes and goes to those places. Until somebody tackles it, this is not going to change. Yes, I am a believer in the pro-growth policies of this White House and this president. I am firmly behind those. But you can't grow your way out of $37 trillion in debt. You just can't do it. And the sooner we come to that realization, the better. And Republicans like to talk about this stuff when they're not in power. When they are, not as much. Not nearly as much interest. Makes you wonder why. Coming up on KCMO, can we get our kids healthy? And there's someone locally who may be and will be leading the charge nationally. We'll get you the details next.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Kids are going back to school today on the Kansas side of the state line. I know for my oldest, Claire, she'll be hopping on that bus and starting first grade. They've got a half day today before they get into the full swing of things tomorrow. I just texted Kate and I said, make sure you send me some pictures. I can't wait to see those photos. It's going to be a big old smile to my face. How about you, Mark? You ready for the first day of school for your girls? What are they starting?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Riley starts today, and then Brielle starts tomorrow.
Okay. What grades?
5th and 7th.
Wow, you got a 7th grader,
I
man.
know. I can't even believe it.
7th grader and a 1.5-year-old.
Yeah.
Boy, you got it all covered right now.
Got a separation there, but
Jeez.
it's all right.
That's cool. It's good, man. It's good. You're blessed.
I got a 7th grader, grandson.
There you go. There you go. Mark will be getting some photos here. John will be getting some photos here. We'll all be getting the first day of school
I'm
photos.
on pickup duty.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, Monday,
wow.
Tuesdays.
How about that?
I'm pressed into service, man.
Oh, that's good. Oh, boy, that's great. Well, one thing that's going to be new this year potentially is that the presidential fitness tests are going to be returning. This after the president signed an executive order in the last couple of weeks, bringing back the presidential fitness test, which was phased out by President Obama back in 2013. So I can't wait. And yesterday, Bryson DeChambeau, who is on this Presidential Fitness Council, was on the Pat McAfee show. So it's Bryson, our own Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs, was, of course, at the announcement as well. You had Triple H there, the former pro wrestler, a dude still jacked. Trump was admiring his muscles at that press conference a couple of weeks back. So Bryson DeChambeau, I can't call him a PGA Tour golfer anymore because he's on that dopey live tour, but still, great golfer, one of the best in the world. He goes on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, and he explains what exactly their goal is for physical fitness, which is so long overdue to bring back. Okay, I know that, we have to care about people's feelings and kids' feelings and stuff like that, and we should. But you know what we have to do? We got to bring back the health of our youth because we are trending in such a negative direction on childhood obesity. And not that this is going to be the thing that fixes it, but you combine bringing back fitness with the Make America Healthy Again movement, getting some of this crap out of our food. It is at least something that you see our leaders right now trying to tackle and trying to get a handle on and trying to reverse. And if nothing else, considering we've gotten 10 years without anybody doing anything about it, this is a step in the right direction. And I will support this and cheerlead this all day. And I promise you, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it was Democrats doing it, Republicans, doesn't matter to me. I will cheerlead this stuff all day, every day, John.
I'm with you. I think it's worth keeping in mind that kind of like participation trophies, the parents perhaps play a bigger part than they are given credit for here. What you feed the kid, when you feed the kid, that kind of thing, They have to go to school and do the physical fitness test, but, there's no point putting them behind the 8 ball by sending them to school 20 pounds overweight.
That's a good point. You see some of this crap, too, in these kids' lunches. It's like, whoa, all right. Bryson DeChambeau, Pat McAfee show yesterday.
Here's the mission. Is it like presidential fitness type stuff? Are we getting back into that?
I mean, look, we're not going to be difficult with anybody. We want people, even if they can't do a pull-up, let's say, right? You have pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups. We're potentially putting in like a farmer's walk. We're thinking about different ideas and how to give people the best opportunity to lead successful and healthy lives from the start. I mean, we know from science that if you start working out later in your life, you don't have the same capacity as when you did earlier in your life. Like if you started when you were a teenager working out and being active, you have a longer lifespan potential. And so that's the part that we're trying to instill in kids, is to empower these kids to work out every day. Well, not every day, but just be healthy, get outside and engage them. And so when we're testing people, it's going to be more of a, hey, where's your baseline? Our phase one is like, where's our baseline? What are we at? Can you do a pull-up? I mean, can you do a pull-up?
Yeah, okay, thank God. I was thinking about that.
That's good.
All the things you said. Yeah, the boys over here are like, I can do a push-up right now.
Hold on.
Yeah, I can do
one sit-up. I can get one.
Yeah.
That's right. So once we establish a baseline, then we give you recommendations on how to work out every day, every other day, consistently improving yourself until we do sort of a secondary baseline test in the wintertime. And then once the test comes around at the end of the year, it'll be the president's physical fitness test. We'll do a fitness test to see how successful you've been in the changes you've made over the course of time. But again, it's not necessarily we're going like, oh, here's the best athlete of every single school, because it's already kind of defined in a sense. They get scholarships and whatnot. But there's the potential for somebody based on a teacher's eye assessment, because there's a lot of people that can also go, oh, I'm not going to do anything the first test, and then they'll go and outperform, and they're the most valuable or most improved person. We don't want that. We want somebody that's actually genuinely improving. So it's going to be a lot of teacher-based understanding of like where that person is to how they're improving. And so we're going to work with the teachers, the school districts, states to help implement the physical fitness test, and then give some better curriculum-based initiatives for kids to get healthier. So that's what we're excited about. That's just a start. We've got numerous other ideas outside the physical fitness test that we're looking at.
That was pro golfer Bryson DeChambeau on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. And I'm so glad that we're having the conversation. Because when you look at childhood obesity in this country, back in the late 80s, early 90s, the childhood obesity rate, basically 6 to 18 years old, was right around 10%. The most recent numbers we have for 2017, 2018, I'm looking at this from the CDC, is around 20%. So it's doubled. And it's only gotten worse since COVID. I mean, these numbers I'm looking at, once again, are, 7, 8 years old at this point. So it's only gotten worse over the last few years, right? Screen use obviously increasing, activity decreasing, food intake increasing, at home during COVID did not help at all. Got a lot of bad habits coming out of that. So these numbers continue to get progressively worse. And with obesity, we know comes mental health issues, right? Especially when you're talking about young people and adolescents. So we're bringing this back to the top of mind, bringing it back to the forefront. The conversation needs to be had. And Mark, you were at back to school night last night. You bumped into your middle child's gym teacher, and he's bringing back that physical fitness test. Let's go.
Yeah, he's said they're getting the pacer back in there, and he's maybe thinking about doing the rope climb again and all the stuff that maybe went away for a little bit. He said it's coming back. He doesn't know the exact stuff yet from the president, but he said he's going to keep an eye out for it.
All right. Well, we got to make sure that the middle school there in Olathe gets a direct line to the White House to figure out what's going on. That's outstanding.
I remember climbing the rope in junior high, and it was easier, actually, once you got above about the first 10 feet where everybody got and their feet were slipping. It was easier to get up there, but I realized I got up to the top. A bunch of people had signed their names. And I'm like, crap. I'm in my gym shorts. Like, I didn't bring a pencil. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be back up here again anytime soon, so oh well.
You're right, though. It does get easier once the rope tightens up, once you get beyond that first 10 feet.
And people haven't worn down the tread.
It's more about being afraid of the heights the further you get up there.
Yeah.
You're right about
true.
that.
Don't look down.
Yeah, don't look down. Now, let me address this on the text line, because I think this is actually a fair criticism from one of our many trolls on the text line. But I'm here for it. I'll answer it. I wish you'd call in, but I'll answer it via text. Pete, Michelle Obama tried to get kids healthy, and you ridiculed and mocked her for it. Well, first off, I wasn't doing this when Michelle Obama rolled out Let's Move in 2010. It's 15 years ago. I was wrapping up senior year of college at Villanova, and I was moving plenty, especially my right bicep working those beers. I was really moving back then.
Well, you being all of us as the Republican Borg, right?
Yes. So I would agree that the Michelle Obama Let's Move campaign and her attempt to make school lunches healthier, those ideas that were more so the school lunch thing ridiculed by Republicans at the time, was in hindsight really dumb and bad politics and not good for the American student. It wasn't. It was at a time when Republicans, obviously, during Obama's first term, were just trying to oppose everything he did. Where have we seen that before? And they had their partisan blinders on, even on an idea that was not only relatively harmless, but was actually a good idea. But Republicans didn't get on board with it. Now, do I think that dramatically would have changed anything today? I don't know. I mean, maybe a little bit. But either way, I'll give that texter that. I'll say, yeah, sure, you're right. Republicans were just all against that stuff because, well, it had an Obama attached to it. And it was a good idea with a good mission to make the school lunches healthier and let's move and get kids outside 60 minutes a day exercising. All that stuff was good. And Republicans in hindsight should not have opposed it. So if you want to come at us on the text line and say that, okay, I'll give it to you. So why don't you jump on board with this administration on this attempt to bring back things like the presidential fitness test, to embrace the Make America Healthy Again movement? Don't make the same mistake that you may say our side, in air quotes, made 15 years ago. Don't do it. Learn from our mistakes. And I don't mean my mistakes, but I mean, the people that I affiliate with's mistakes. Don't make that same mistake. Let's all get together because our kids' health depends on it. The top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour, 6 at 6 we call it, we'll tell you next on KCMO.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
6:50 on a Wednesday as we give you the top 6 stories.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Well, the President of the United States is a couple of days away from visiting with Vladimir Putin, and that is going to be happening in Alaska. So we now know that this meeting is going to be in Anchorage. The president, though, is not happy with how the media is covering this pending meeting. The president just posting here in the last few minutes on Truth Social, quote, "Very unfair media is at work on my meeting with Putin, constantly quoting fired losers and really dumb people like John Bolton, who just said that even though the meeting is on American soil, quote, Putin has already won. What's that all about? We're winning on everything." All caps. "The fake news is working overtime. No taxing overtime," in parentheses, he adds. "If I got Moscow and Leningrad free as part of the deal with Russia, the fake news would say that I made a bad deal. But now they've been caught. Look at all the real news that's coming out about their corruption. They are sick and dishonest people who probably hate our country. But it doesn't matter because we are winning on everything. Tell me how you really feel, President Trump." He just posted that. Now, he's not wrong. I mean, this is not a bad idea. Okay? Trump meeting with Putin is a good idea. I don't know what comes out of it. But my goodness, the carnage, the death, the destruction that we've seen going on almost 4 years now in Ukraine, there's got to be an off-ramp here for everybody. And if this has started the conversation, well, that is a good thing. So that we have some more details on, the president posting about it this morning. And now we wait to see how it plays out on Friday.
Number 2.
Next up in the 6 at 6 on KCMO. So the National Guard, a national story, of course, that everyone's been talking about, is in Washington, D.C. Troops are helping out the Washington, D.C. police. That began after the president's announcement on Monday. And we have some numbers to share with you, which I don't know who would be against this. But on the first day of the National Guard helping out on the streets of Washington, D.C., they made 23 arrests, including suspects wanted for murder, gun offenses, and other crimes. Who's against that? I'm genuinely curious who would be against that. If the National Guard wanted to come to Kansas City and help out here with our violent crime problem, which is nearing historic highs, I'd say, please come help. I bet you local law enforcement would love the assistance as well. And you got 23 bad guys off the streets after the National Guard comes in to help D.C. police. That's just in one day. This is going to be a massive, massive success.
Number 3.
In our 6 at 6 on KCMO, it's where we started the show. The Sunfresh at 31st and Prospect has officially shut down. And the Kansas City Star reports here, after months of struggling and millions of dollars from the city, the Sunfresh Linwood has closed. And they note here that the city helped out with $17 million to get this Sunfresh off the ground. Earlier this year, the city council approved an ordinance for the community builders to receive $161,000 in rent relief, $750,000 in expedited funding, so that the Sunfresh could remain open, and a few months later, it is completely shut down. If you think cities or states or governments in general can run grocery stores, here's your prime example in Kansas City as to why they can't.
Number 4.
In our 6 at 6, we are staying in Kansas City and looking at a looming deadline for the KCATA. Kansas City bus riders are understandably worried as a critical funding deadline for public transportation approaches on Friday. So this is something that we told you about and we asked Mayor Lucas about last week. But the deadline for the city of Kansas City and the KCATA to reach a funding agreement is rapidly approaching. And if a deal is not finalized by Friday, the KCATA will need to use capital reserve funds or potentially suspend service. So Mayor Lucas said yesterday that no decisions have been made. He's confident a resolution will be reached. He thinks they'll figure this out by the end of the week. but the countdown clock is officially on for the city of Kansas City, the city council, and the KCATA. The city council is going to meet tomorrow to vote on a potential contract. If that goes through, the KCATA will host a special session Friday to sign that deal. So we will see how that one plays out.
Number 5.
Well, next up, what do you say? On a much lighter note and a positive note as well, dare I say the Royals are rolling? That's probably too much. They've won 2 in a row. Let's relax here. All right, let's take it easy. But they get a good 8-5 win last night. And you know what? Time is short. If you want to get into the playoff race, you got to get it done here sooner rather than later. And they've won 2 straight over the Nationals at home after an 8-5 win last night. They wrap up that 3-game set with the first pitch today at 1:10. Seth Lugo is going to be on the mound. And the Royals, listen, it's really more about the wild card right now, but they are 8.5 back in the division for whatever that's worth. But when you look at the wild card standings, they are still 4 games back of the New York Yankees for that final wild card spot. And got to get rolling here. Got the White Sox this weekend and then a big series against the Rangers followed by the Tigers. So next week is a huge week, but you got to pick up some big wins right now.
Number 6.
And last up in our 6 at 6. Well, I'll give you a little public service announcement for KCMO. I will be doing 7 hours of radio on KCMO today, filling in for Guy Benson from 2 to 5 o'clock this afternoon. So little reprieve when we get done here at 10, and then back at it, filling in for Guy Benson coming up at 2. So, a good day to get in your phone calls because I got to save this voice as much as I can. These pipes got to rest themselves for a few hours after 10 o'clock and back at it at 2. There's your 6 at 6 at KCMO Talk Radio. So yesterday I got an email from a listener, and he reached out and he said, hey, I like your show. Sometimes your guests are a little too far to the right for me, but he was a very reasonable and solid listener. And he said, did you see this Kansas City woman that was on this national show? I watched it. She knocked it out of the park, and I'll play it for you next. Had a listener reach out to me yesterday, and he said he doesn't always agree with the show, and that's totally cool, but he listens all the time. And he sent me this link to a show that's done by Mark Halperin called Tuohey. And basically, they have multiple voices talking about the political news of the day. Mark used to be with Fox and other media outlets, and now he's doing his own thing. And this Tuohey has really taken off because they have a great blend of different perspectives on the show. The co-hosts don't always agree. It's not hyper partisan one way or the other. And they've got a good niche that they have carved out for themselves on Tuohey. So they were talking about this big, story in Washington, D.C. and how crime's out of control and Trump's federalizing the police department and bringing in the National Guard. And at the end of the show yesterday, they brought in a viewer to talk about what's being experienced here in the Midwest. And it was a woman from Kansas City. She was a Brookside or is a Brookside resident. And they gave her a good 2-3 minutes to talk about how things here in Kansas City, specifically in Brookside, have changed over the last few years. And she tied it directly to what's going on in Washington, D.C. And she did a great job. So I reached out to Mark Halperin yesterday, and I said, Mark, can you come on the show this morning? He couldn't. He was just slammed, but I'm hoping to get him on tomorrow because he's someone I would love to get in our rotation of regular guests anyway. He does a really good job. But I have the audio of this Brookside resident on this show yesterday. It's a show on YouTube, but they do a great job. It's professionally produced. It's well-researched, good opinions, good guests, good takes. And this viewer from Kansas City did an outstanding job explaining Kansas City's issues to a national audience and describing some of the changes that have taken place in Brookside, things that we've talked about on a regular basis here on KCMO. And she ripped it all. She ripped local Kansas City media. She got on Mayor Lucas. She got on everybody, but she did it in not a flamethrower kind of way. She did it in a very calculated, smart, insightful manner. And this is not somebody who is like way out to the right politically. You can tell that she's pretty moderate, but she's fed up with what's happening here in Brookside. And here's what she sounded like yesterday.
And we're interested to know where you are and what's on your mind. Wildwood was where the rally was. Yeah.
I live in Kansas City, Missouri.
Awesome.
By birth, I grew up in New Jersey outside of New York. So I feel like I kind of understand the East Coast, but I've lived in the Midwest for close to 30 years.
Where in Kansas City are you?
Brookside area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of in the heart of like the fun, nice, used to be safe part of the city. And that's part of what prompted me to finally actually try to join the conversation because, with the news of DC yesterday, I'm just so beyond frustrated because Kansas City is, I feel like what happens on the coasts eventually makes its way to the Midwest. And, I live in an extremely progressive neighborhood in a very liberal city in a very conservative state of Missouri that's gone completely red. So it's like, I feel like, a little bit of split personality in terms of understanding politics, but the city that I live in just it's completely Democrat controlled, very progressive. We have crime that I know like per capita rivals Chicago, St. Louis. It's one of the top. And yet we have a mayor who is a very nice guy, very likable, but he's just kind of holding court until a representative Democrat Cleaver retires and he's just going to step into that role. So he basically just, doesn't do much of anything and he's kind of powerless, but and I want to kind of be quick here, but we just, and I follow all like San Francisco and what's, happening this last election when we had the choice of two prosecutors. Of course, my neighborhood and the whole city went for the most left-leaning progressive one. And it's like, have we not learned anything? And then I very, very rarely watch the legacy media or even local news other than for weather and sports. But last night I happened to turn it on. And on the day that we we laid to rest a police officer who was shot about 10 days ago, shot and killed, and a 14-year-old girl who was shot in her home during a drive-by shooting over the weekend. That's in the news. Then they go to DC, like giving us the Kansas City perspective, and they just cite that crime is down. So we don't know why Trump needs to take over. There was no nuance to the discussion. It's like, I don't really have a question. It's just a comment. Yeah. Like, in the Midwest, that's what is anybody. I mean, the only saving grace is that maybe nobody watches the news.
Yeah.
Because
do you feel safe walking around your own neighborhood?
I honestly do not. And it's hard to describe what a lovely neighborhood this is. It's old houses. It's walkability.
That woman was on Tuohey yesterday with Mark Halperin, and it's a national show. She's right here in Kansas City. I don't know who she is. I did not catch her name on the show, but I thought she very well described to a national audience and national hosts what Kansas City has gone through over the last few years. And obviously, it's something we've talked about extensively on this show. She went on to talk about what happened to the Chef Brady, there in Brookside. When his car was getting burglarized, he tries to interrupt it, and a couple of teenage thugs end up shooting and killing him in broad daylight in Brookside. She talked about the break-ins that they've dealt with. And she talked about the fact that a neighborhood that, yes, is still beautiful when you drive through it. Brookside absolutely is. But it has been hampered with a ton of crime issues. I know somebody who's told me that the two of them, this buddy told me that him and his brother will have sat on the front porch with their weapons and waited for criminals to come by and try to basically steal from vehicles. And they've scared them off. I mean, that is like third world type stuff. That's what happens in Haiti. And it's happening right here in Brookside in Kansas City, where people are paying $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for a house in some cases. Think about that. Put that into perspective, right? That is what is happening here. And the only thing she got wrong is that Mayor Lucas is waiting for Cleaver to retire. I really don't think he is. But overall, she had a very good synopsis of what this town has been through over the last few years, John.
Well, in the South Plaza area is the latest story here for these car break-ins over the last 10 days or so.
Yes.
Just to the north of Brookside.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Same exact thing. You got people that own these condos who park outside in a parking lot, communal parking lot. And Fox 4 had that story last night, I believe, where they're getting hit with break-ins all over the place on the South Plaza. I mean, eventually these places will be hollowed out because people of means will say, I'm not spending this kind of money to live here, and then wake up and hope that my driver's side window isn't broken. I'm not spending $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 on a home hoping that my vehicle isn't stolen by the next morning when I wake up. Because as you know, a lot of these homes in Brookside, you can't really park in the garage anyway, just, based on when these homes were built. You can't do it. So to put that into perspective, to have now a national audience on that show, seeing the uniqueness of what's gone on in Kansas City the last few years, doesn't bode well for leadership here. I'll say that much. That's why the saving grace, as much as leadership in Kansas City doesn't like to talk about the Chiefs and the Royals, it's actually been a great distraction from some of the more serious issues that this town is dealing with that a lot of people don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. And I love when she knocked the Kansas City media. I love it. She was so spot on when she said, hey, we buried Elijah Ming on Monday, KCK Sheriff's deputy. We had a 16-year-old over the weekend shot and killed in Kansas City, Missouri, in her home by someone or a group of people on a drive-by. And then when local media goes to talk about Trump in this D.C. story from earlier this week, where they bring in the National Guard and they federalize the D.C. police, what do they say? Well, crime's down in D.C. I don't know what this guy's doing. Yeah, it's like 10 years ago you weighed 175 pounds. Now you weigh 275. You lost 10 pounds. You're 265. And you don't want someone to tell you that you're still massively overweight. I heard that on KMBZ the other morning. I mean, at 5 o'clock hour before we get on the air, I hear him say, well, crime is down in D.C. and Trump is federalizing the police department as if, like, No one knows why he would do such a thing. I mean, it is so disingenuous, and they're so full of it. But they just can't help themselves. And people in Kansas City covering media in this town, they should know better. They don't want to know better. That's the problem. They don't want to know better. They don't care. They don't want to give you the truth. They're not interested in the truth. They're interested in their narratives. They're interested in their storylines. And it's one of the reasons I believe we've been able to have so much success here on KCMO, because we're not going to BS you on this stuff. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to hide from these stories. And we'll do our best to hold the people in charge accountable for it. 913-408-7957. That's our text line and our studio line on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Mark, are you monitoring the New Heights podcast for us this morning? Let us know what happens with Taylor on the show.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let me know if some big news comes out of that. Okay. All right.
Will
Good.
do.
Thank you very much. You're on Taylor Travis duty this morning. All right, Mark? I know you're not going to put in for hazard pay for that. You love it deep down.
It's fun.
John wouldn't be very happy about it, but I know you would. So if that news breaks, we'll get it to you on KCMO Talk Radio, 913-408-7957.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
Yeah, South Plaza residents are reporting a series of car break-ins during the recent overnight hours. In fact, there were a couple of folks who were like, yeah, we've got an HOA. We pay for the HOA fee, but our cars are getting broken into, and there's nothing that local law enforcement is doing about it, and we're kind of at our wits' end. So they were talking to local media, and it's just the latest example on some of these crime issues that Kansas City continues to deal with. So whether it's Washington, D.C. or Kansas City, if you are thinking that the national conversation on urban crime is one that's going to once again hurt the president of the United States, you're completely out of touch with what many in major American cities have been dealing with over the last 5 years. Chris is in Blue Springs first up. Hey, Chris, you're on KCMO. What's going on?
Oh, hey, Pete. Yeah, thanks for having me on and listen to you guys every morning on the way to work.
Thank you.
Yeah, that crime stuff. It's all, we have it in Blue Springs as well. For years, every so often you hear a bunch of random gunfire coming from like park areas or, across neighborhoods. But wasn't so long ago, my wife was taking a morning walk around our block, just right around the house. On that last little bit, she calls me, tells me some truck is creeping up behind her and following her. And so I'm jumping out of bed, throwing on whatever I can. And then she screams, she's cutting me off. And I was like, turn around and run. And I'm running down the middle of the street, barefoot, T-shirt, and a pair of shorts with my pistol, trying to get to her.
And what happened?
And luckily nothing happened. The guy took off.
Oh, okay. He took off.
I told her to turn around and run, get to a more busy part of the street, end of the block. But it's crazy. And
it is.
I don't know. I don't think it's the local PD because I know several of them. They're great. I think hopefully with the new Jackson County prosecutor, we'll get some of these people off the street instead of just slapping their hands and sending them home.
Yeah. Chris, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I mean, I'm hopeful that Melissa Johnson, she can't do a worse job than Jean Peters Baker, but we're going to have to see some major improvements, and I will give her time to turn things around. I will. I mean, I think about when we lived at 6th and Broadway downtown, and this was pre-COVID, but I would walk Woody around the block at 4 in the morning sometimes, and, Kate would walk him early in the morning, and now we hear from people down there saying you would never do such a thing. Let's go to Frank in Overland Park. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Pete, as always, enjoy your show. And that lady from Brookside, I just pray that I can only be a fraction as eloquent as she was. So here it goes. I'm a business owner, been a business owner for over 40 years. And so much of business comes down to incentive. The progressive left has no incentive whatsoever to fix the issue. Rahm Emanuel has talked about and is famous for the quote of never let a crisis go to waste. The progressive left is not incented to fix this because if it continues to deteriorate, they've got their crisis in order to seize more control. In business, you got to constantly be exerting effort to make progress, not to gain control, but to retain progress for clients, for the people we serve. And it's hard work. The left, in my opinion, is not capable of hard work in many, many cases.
Thank you for that, Frank. Listen, there's definitely a political power play that is part of the conversation. I'll give you that. But I think for a lot of people, they just continue to believe that their methods are going to work, even though their methods are being tried all over the country. And there's very little evidence to suggest they're working anywhere. But if they admit they're wrong, then they're giving up a lot of political capital and equity, and they don't want to do that. Coming up, a story that broke yesterday that really is bothering me. If you're a fan of this sport, I'll explain next.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
So you're telling me that a sport that is completely a lawless free-for-all, large sums of money flow to players who can be free agents twice a year. Now, the people in charge of that sport are outraged, absolutely outraged in some cases, about a Venmo description from 2022. You've got to be kidding me. It is 7:34 on a Wednesday morning. So college football is right around the corner. If you're a KU K-State fan, you are, 10 days away from your college football season starting? Mizzou's got a couple of weeks, but you've got the KU K-State games coming up next Saturday in what they call Week 0, which is so dumb. Just call that Week 1. What are we doing with Week 0? But that's a total sidebar tangent I won't go down right now. So you look at the story. John Mateer is the quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners. He's got a lot of hype around him. OU has been down the last couple of years. There's a belief that this guy could be the next star quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners. And he is in some hot water right now because there was a Venmo transaction that fans dug up from almost 3 years ago of him Venmoing his buddy for what was described. Because, on Venmo, you describe every transaction, or you can if you want to. I don't do a lot of Venmo. But when I do Venmo, I never put what it's for. It's like, and I also don't make them public. That's the other thing.
Yeah, keep it private, guys.
You can keep the Venmo transaction private. But even when I make them private, I'm just neurotic about it. So I just put a little cash emoji in there. Like, the person who I'm Venmoing knows why I'm Venmoing them. They don't need a full-blown description, a date. This isn't like some banking operation here, okay? The person knows why I'm Venmoing them. I put the cash emoji in there, and I always try to make sure I make that transaction on Venmo private. But this guy, back in 2022, his name is John Mateer. He was not at Oklahoma then. He was at Washington State. And college football fans are nuts, by the way. Only in college football does somebody dig up 3-year-old Venmo transactions from a quarterback. On November 20th of 2022, he Venmoed a friend, and it was described as sports gambling, UCLA versus USC. So now there's an investigation going on. Now, John Mateer has denied this. He put out a statement yesterday saying the allegations that I once participated in sports gambling are false. My previous Venmo descriptions did not accurately portray the transactions in question, but were instead inside jokes between me and my friends. I have never bet on sports. I understand the seriousness of this matter, but recognize that taken out of context, those Venmo descriptions suggest otherwise. I can assure my teammates, coaches, and officials at the NCAA that I have not engaged in any sports gambling. Now, let's be clear. I don't believe him. It's not like he sent his buddy a Venmo transaction and he, had a description that was like, blow from a great weekend with friends or something like that. If he did that, I would say, okay, maybe that was some kind of a joke. But the Venmo transaction reads, sports betting, parentheses, UCLA versus USC. It's like, that's pretty descriptive, okay? I don't think there's any inside joke there. But I get why he's basically claiming that this is not something that happened. You can't tie him back to some type of online app if it was just a Venmo transaction. So I think he's lying. I don't think he's telling the truth for a second. That being said, the fact that the NCAA is going to do anything about this is a joke. The NCAA is the biggest joke in North American sports. The NCAA is the one that allowed college football to become a lawless free-for-all with large sums of money flowing to players who can be free agents twice a year. And now the NCAA is going to be outraged and investigate, air quotes, a guy who may have Venmoed another guy for a sports bet 3 years ago. What are we doing here? I mean, as much as I don't believe John Mateer, I'll defend him against the joke that is the NCAA.
What was the date of that transaction again?
November 20th of 2022.
All right. USC beat UCLA 48-45 the day before that happened.
Okay. So, yeah, there's no joke here.
Caleb Williams with a great game.
Did
for
you
USC.
Did you bet that game, Mark?
I did not.
Oh, yeah. I guess
that
it wasn't.
I can remember.
Well, it wasn't legal here in Kansas, so I hope you weren't betting
Oh, yeah.
it.
Then I would not have.
I don't want to get you in trouble with, state law enforcement here, okay? Yeah. So let's just say you were not betting that game, Mark. All right?
Yeah, I would not have.
You would never have
I
broken
honestly
the
didn't
law.
start till September 2023. So.
That's right. Yes. So you were not betting that game. But I just, any time that I can blast on the NCAA, trust me, I'm going to do it. And this is just the latest example of a joke of an institution trying to now flex its muscles and act like it's going to be, the official organization to oversee college sports. Guys, you gave that up a long time ago. And please don't start now. Don't try to get your sacred cow with John Mateer might have bet on a sports game 3 years ago. Just let it go. You have no juice. You have absolutely no power. And nobody around college sports has an ounce of respect for you. Meantime, this just dropped. We got a trailer. You got the audio here, Mark? You got the trailer?
Yeah.
All right. New Heights podcast. Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce, they have announced, and we knew this yesterday, that Taylor Swift was going to be on the podcast. It is coming out today, and the trailer for the podcast dropped, and it starts with Jason Kelce doing a long introduction of Taylor Swift. I guess he does this for every guest, Mark. Is that how this goes?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want me to do about halfway through the intro? Because I can cut it in half.
Are you going to get the Jason part in there?
Yeah.
And then you got Taylor's part on the back end?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, whatever you got, whatever you think is good. Okay. Here we go. Jason Kelce introducing Taylor Swift on the New Heights podcast.
Are you ready for it? Making your podcasting debut, the most aggressive guest in the history of shows, Taylor Swift!
That intro, Jason. Oh my God.
I've seen this before.
No,
He's
look,
about to
his
black
soul
out.
has
Jason,
left his
just
body.
I'm cramping.
Just
I'm
breathe.
cramping.
No,
I'm
that was
cramping.
so good. Thank you.
I tried, Tay.
Thank you
I tried.
for screaming for like 47 seconds. That was so nice. That was so
Tay,
sweet.
welcome to New Heights.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on my favorite podcast. As we all know, you guys have a lot of male sports fans that listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
And I think we all know that if there's one thing that male sports fans want to see in their spaces and on their screens, it's more of me.
That's actually pretty good right there from Taylor Swift. I respect that. That's funny. That is funny. Making fun of herself. Because, listen, of course, the last couple of years, what have we heard? Oh, I'm so sick of seeing Taylor Swift at a football game. I don't want to see Taylor Swift. All right, how many times can I watch guys slap each other in the tush, okay? I'll look at Taylor Swift once in a while. It's fine. No one's going to get hurt. Get over it.
The dads, Brads, and Chads, right?
Yeah, mostly the Chads. Okay, the dads are fine with it. Dads will be okay. The Brads will be all right. The Chads. Chad is Karen. Chad and Karen deserve each other. And they're mostly Chads who get really upset about seeing Taylor Swift for like a total of 18 seconds in a 3-hour football game broadcast. And Taylor Swift, to her credit, making fun of herself and understanding that, hey, I may not be the most popular person you have on here for some of your favorite viewers and listeners, is a self-deprecating moment that I actually get a kick out of. If our biggest celebrities have more of those, we're better off. And she just had one there in that trailer. That's pretty good. I like it, John.
Shows she has total command of the market.
Yes.
She knows where she's popular, knows where she's lukewarm.
Yep.
Knows where she's not popular.
Exactly right. And being self-aware of that and then being able to joke about it and have some fun at your own expense. That's good.
I'm not getting all boo-hoo about the fact that you're not going to convert some,
exactly.
Right? You just live with it like, okay, well, these people don't want to see me.
She's not playing the victim card like,
Right.
oh, I bet your listeners don't even like that I'm on.
There you go.
Oh,
Touche.
boy. Oh, I'm a victim. No, you're a billionaire living your best life, finally dating a real man instead of some of these soy boys that you've been, dating for far too long. I'm just waiting for him to finally put a ring on it. I will tell you, though, I think we're getting close. I don't believe she would have joined the podcast if there was trouble in paradise and she was getting annoyed with the fact that he wasn't going to propose. So she opened herself up. She knows it's very good for their business and that show, and they've got that, $100 million podcast deal on the table right now. So she knows this is huge for their brand. So if she was secretly upset with Travis in some way, she wouldn't have done this. She knows this is way bigger for them than it is for her. Let's be honest here. That's a good trailer. I like that. When's that come out there, Mark?
Tonight at 6 o'clock our time on YouTube. I believe it goes to Spotify and Apple tonight as well. I guess I can't confirm that, but
all right.
6 o'clock our time.
Well, you'll be on it tonight. You'll let me know what happens.
Oh yeah, I'll be able to get to it about 6:30. So I'll be about 30 minutes behind everybody else.
All right. Well, you send us the viral moments, and we'll run it back in the morning.
We'll do.
All right. Well done there. Well done. 7:44. Happy Wednesday. Glad you're here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app as always. Make sure you download it. Or if you're at the home office, KCMOTalkRadio.com. Also, the best way to join us all morning long. Well, Mark, can I just roast you for something here? Do you mind?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm going to break first and then roast you. I was very disappointed when I saw this. I'll explain next.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Rolling through the boys' social media, which means Mark, because John doesn't have one. He was on Twitter X for about a day, and then he got banned and didn't go back on. So that's a story for another day, but, it is what it is. One day we'll get him back on the old social media app. But I found out yesterday, after railing for years on how I wouldn't hire somebody who puts pronouns in their email signatures or bios, I found out that our own Mark has pronouns in his Instagram, and we did not follow each other on Instagram for a while, but I stumbled upon his Instagram yesterday, and I'm like, oh, yo, look, there's Mark on Instagram. And I don't think Mark uses a lot of Instagram either, but I stumble upon his Instagram, and then I see the dreaded he-him.
Better than they, them, though, right?
It's a low bar, Mark. It's a very low bar. So I would like you to defend yourself on why you should not be terminated by the end of the week after, I've got a credibility to uphold here. And I've been saying forever, I can't take anyone seriously who's got pronouns in their bio or pronouns in their email signature. And now I find out that, you've done that on your own Instagram page. So please, this is your moment to defend yourself and protect your own employment.
Yes, there was an update a little over a year ago, I believe, where I just signed into Instagram like I normally would, and it said options of pronouns. And so I was like, oh, yeah. I click on it. He, him, obviously. I'm not going to do anything else. And I just clicked on it. I didn't think anything of it. And then I didn't even realize it was sitting there on my bio. I just thought that I clicked on it when they did the update. I didn't even know I did it, honestly. So that's my excuse. I don't know if it's a good one, but it's true.
What do you think, John? Does that pass the smell test for you?
Well, I would say in this day and age, it's likely that box appeared. And then like the Seinfeld episode with the ribbon and Kramer, you can't opt out. You can't put nothing, so you have to choose something.
Well, I don't remember this. I mean, maybe I did the same thing, but I know damn well, because I would look at my own Instagram quite frequently, that my pronouns are nowhere to be found on my bio. So I don't know if that is true, Mark. I will take you at your word because you are an upstanding guy and you've never lied once to me. But I'm struggling. I'm not going to lie. I'm struggling, man.
I just went there. I can actually take it off now. I went to my profile and I found out how I can take it off, or I can add new ones.
Oh, what are the options?
Oh, we want to go through that right now?
Zim,
just give me the rundown. Because I don't want to have to do it on my Instagram. So give me the rundown.
I was going to say you've got the whole.
It's
gamut.
the whole gamut.
The errors, zoojims, whatever. We did the whole thing a little while back.
Oh wow! So it's not just they, them, she, her, he, him.
It's all these Chinese names.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, that's exactly what I thought.
Beijing, okay.
Xinjiang, yes.
Okay, they literally sound like made-up Chinese cities. Okay.
Errors was the weird one for me. I'm like, M's? I don't know.
How about this? As punishment, you've got to make your pronouns one of those dopey things for at least a week.
Okay, I was thinking about it. You could have up to 4.
What?
So I think I'm just going to add 2 extra.
Okay. Yeah, use the Zer, if you don't mind doing that one. The ZHE, ZHER.
Okay.
Yeah. Please go ahead and put that on there as well. That is considered a feminine set of neo-pronouns, drawing inspiration from she, her, and Z-Zer.
At Mizzou.
Yeah, that's the backup kicker.
The kicker, yes.
All right, Mark, that's your punishment. You've got to add a couple of pronouns to your Instagram for the next week.
All right, sounds good.
We'll reevaluate next Wednesday and see how you're holding up. Okay, in the meantime, John's old college roommate, Frank Bisignano, he ends up as the Social Security Commissioner. He goes on CNBC this morning and talks about how if you are a Social Security recipient, this is some good news. They are cleaning this place up. Mark, you got that clip of Frank Bisignano? Let's roll it here from CNBC this morning. Here's what he said about cleaning up the Social Security website.
And today we have more than 300 million Americans who have Social Security numbers, and they're live in the system. People like to talk about the 70 million plus beneficiaries, and we do make those payments every month. But I think that that's one piece of the equation. And we're running a digital business now. We have more transactions online than anywhere else. And the bold goal here is 200 million digital users by the end of next year. That's 200 million. Today we have 75 million. We've grown that a bunch in the past 5 months. We've taken the website, which used to be down for service hours 29 hours a week, and now it's up 100% of the time. We're in a digital transformation for Social Security.
That is overall a small thing when you talk about what the government does on a day-to-day basis. But this is the kind of stuff that, even if you didn't vote for the people in charge, this is the kind of stuff that is so common sense. The more we get technology, AI, people who have private sector experience involved in government, the more efficient it's going to be. And Frank Bisignano, outside of his claim to fame of being John Anthony's roommate at Baker going back 40 years, he was the Fiserv CEO from 2020 to 2025. Prior to that, he was the COO of JP Morgan Chase. I mean, this guy has made a tremendous amount of money with some of the largest financial institutions in this country. And now he's the Social Security Commissioner. These are people that actually do things and have had great success in the real world. They're not lifelong bureaucrats. They're not, Mayor Pete, whose claim to fame was being the mayor of a city 1/5 the size of Kansas City and liked toy trains, so now he's the transportation secretary. Like, these are serious, accomplished individuals who are in charge now of things like the Social Security Commission. And they're making positive changes. And this stuff is not going to show up in the polling. But I think it's important to share this with the audience and share this with you. Some of the stuff that's going on that's not getting nearly enough attention. Something that's getting too much attention and ties directly back to Kansas City. We'll talk about next. not a good look for a police department that did not want, at least at the leadership level, to be taken over by the feds. They're not being led by the best and the brightest. They're not. So urban crime is a topic that is getting a lot of attention in the wake of Washington, D.C.'s police department being federalized earlier this week. The National Guard is helping out as well. And we know here in Kansas City, it's been a problem, really, since COVID. There was a trend in the right direction briefly prior to that. But since COVID, we've dealt with, sadly, the most violent 5-year run in modern Kansas City history. And it's not unique to Kansas City. Chicago's had issues. We know Washington, D.C., if you follow the national news, has had a lot of issues as well. But, part of it is who you put in charge, right? It's why these leadership positions are so important. It's why you want to make sure you've got great police chiefs in your major American cities. And not people who are hired because of their sex or their gender or, well, I guess those are the same thing. Sex, gender, race, none of that should matter at all. You just want really competent people who can lead major organizations, especially in times of crisis. That's what you need. And for a police department that people have been screaming about for the last few days, saying, no, we're doing fine. Don't touch this. Crime is down in D.C. I don't know. You tell me. Here's Washington, D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith yesterday during a press conference following the announcement on Monday that their police department has been taken over by the feds. Take a listen.
That's what the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
All right. I want to play the first 5 seconds of that one more time. A reporter asks the police chief, do you know what the chain of command is now? And the police chief says, what does that mean?
She's a real beauty.
You can't make it up. Please, just the first 5 seconds there one more time.
That's what the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi?
What is that? What does that mean? I mean, every business you've ever been a part of has a chain of command. Who are you reporting to? What's the chain of command?
And then she walks off and somebody else comes up and answers.
That was the mayor, Muriel Bowser, who bailed her out. The police chief has the most deer-in-the-headlights look you could possibly have when a reporter says, what is your chain of command? And she says, what does that mean? Part of this is prime example of why you don't elevate people from roles like chief equity officer to police chief. That's what she was. The police chief, Pamela Smith, prior to becoming the chief, was the chief equity officer. She led the department's efforts on DEI. And then she became the freaking chief of police. I mean, goodness gracious, you wonder why these places can't function. Why they're operating so poorly, why they're in part seeing such massive spikes in crime in the case of D.C. Well, when you have someone who's the police chief, who prior to that was basically the DEI coordinator, boy, you're kind of asking for it. Not exactly the cream of the crop there. Man, I saw that clip and I'm like, I've got to make sure this is not AI. I got to make sure this is not artificial intelligence. And you got to do that these days because a lot of things on social media you see just simply aren't true. Like the amount of weird AI-generated Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift things on social media are absurd. And I was like, let me double check on this one. Nope. We got a police chief who was like, what does chain of command mean? Thankfully, we've had good police chiefs here in Kansas City. Rick Smith was outstanding. Stacey Graves doing a very good job following up in his position as well. And, so far, I think she's had a tricky job balancing the politics and knowing that she's got to play nicer with Mayor Lucas than, let's be honest, Rick Smith ever did or wanted to. But, it's a balancing act, and it seems like she's done a pretty good job of that thus far. But remember, too, when it comes to law enforcement, they're only one part of the equation here. You've got, obviously, prosecutors. You've got judges that you can't control if you're a police department. And when you're short-staffed to begin with, there's a lot of this that, obviously, they can't control. But what they can do, what they can continue to advance, is making people feel safer by being visible, by being transparent, and by obviously answering calls in timely fashions. And that's been, unfortunately, not great for Kansas City, but a lot of that has been also driven by the fact that they don't have enough bodies. I mean, they're short hundreds of police officers in this town. So then there's this general question that's out there. Do police make streets safer? It's a very simple question. Basically, are we finally turning our backs to the absurd narratives of earlier this decade of police are bad, cops are bad, we don't want police, we don't like police, police are actually the problem, and just coming back to an agreed upon sentiment that cops inherently are good? It doesn't mean every cop is great. There are bad cops out there. But the idea of police officers being present in our communities makes streets safer. I think we're getting there amongst most people. But the loudest voices that get amplified on cable news and on social media, they're not there yet. Here's an example of that. This was on Morning Joe, MSNBC yesterday. Joe Scarborough talking to Simone Sanders. She worked for Joe Biden in a communications role. Then she got a gig on cable news. And he asked her a very simple question. Don't you think police make streets safer? And here's what she had to say in that back and forth.
You don't think more police make streets safer?
No, Joe. I'm a black woman in America. I do not always think that more police make streets safer. When you walk down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe. So what is it about talking about places like Southeast D.C., right? Ward 8, if you will, that people say, well, we need more officers to make us safe. I think we have to rethink what safety means in America.
And we're still doing that. Rethink, reimagine. We're still using those little keywords and code words. Really? I think this is an 80-20 issue. And if you want to amplify voices on certain cable news channels that will still try to convince you that police are somehow inherently not good and not welcomed, and say, well, in Georgetown, I mean, have you been to Georgetown? It's littered with multi-million-dollar townhouses, okay? You don't need cops or as many cops in places that don't have a lot of crime. You just don't need it. The notion that that has anything to do with race or the race of the residents is just being disingenuous. You're not a serious person. But, when your career is built on race hustling, that's the kind of stuff you got to say. But even Al Sharpton's hearing Simone Sanders, and he's somewhere blushing.
Show some RESPICT.
It's 8:13, and we're glad you're here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Our buddy Patrick Tuohey is going to be in the studio coming up at 8:30 this morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And in the meantime, we continue to follow this story in Kansas City that went viral last night on social media. We'll tell you what that was coming up next.
Dave Ramsey here, and you're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now airing on FM at 95.7.
Went viral last night on social media, got national attention. The Kansas City Sunfresh at 31st and Prospect closing down. This clip from Fox 4 was picked up by a bunch of multi-million social media accounts, and here's what it sounded like.
I don't understand. We need this store. We do.
Alicia Batson shopped here on Monday and was going to come back here for groceries today. As soon as our interview was done, she started to cry. Part of the reason why she was so emotional may be because of what she told us in the first 30 seconds of our conversation.
What are we supposed to do as a community? Where am I going to go now? Where am I going to go get stuff for my kids?
Well, and I don't say this to be obnoxious. I'm just saying this to literally help out. It's a fact. There is an Aldi 8 blocks south on Prospect that I think many of the folks who may have shopped at that Sunfresh at 31st and Prospect will now be going to. Now, it's about a mile walk if you don't have transportation, but still, there is an Aldi 8 blocks away. But the story here is more about the Sunfresh getting $17 million to get started from the city of Kansas City, Missouri, when it launched. And it most recently, earlier this year, got $161,000 in rent relief and $750,000 in expedited funding so it could remain open. It's not even the end of August, and they're shutting down. When I have Quentin Lucas on tomorrow, I am going to ask him where the heck the $750,000 went and the $161,000 in rent relief. I mean, maybe the rent relief was something that was just basically subtracted from their rent. I'm not exactly sure how that part of it would work. But when you're talking about $750,000 in expedited funding so that the Sunfresh could remain open, that's just money from the taxpayer that's gone. It's not coming back. And you look at this and you say to yourself, okay, if you're the mayor of Kansas City, and the mayor defended this Sunfresh, this was in late July when it was becoming a national story as well. And the reason that this Sunfresh, this, random grocery store on the east side of Kansas City got national attention is because in New York City, in that mayor's race there, this guy who's in the lead, Mamdani, who's a self-described socialist, has talked about basically having government-run food stores. The mayor has noted that this Sunfresh was not run by the city. It was a privately run operation. But yes, of course, it has gotten millions of dollars in subsidies from the city. And as he puts it, we've given subsidies to Sunfresh to get food into the communities of need. Well, there's an Aldi down the road that, once again, as far as I can tell, is not getting a dime from the city of Kansas City, Missouri. But we can clarify that with the mayor tomorrow when he joins this show. But the problem with this Sunfresh was multifold. First off, you had a lot of issues that the Kansas City Star, to its credit, highlighted here, including the fact that you had employees reporting a ton of safety concerns. So were shoppers. Shoppers reported frequent 911 calls for fights and drug use and public sex as well. That was happening outside of a grocery store. I mean, I was at a Hy-Vee with my kids on, it was Sunday morning after church. I took Claire, my oldest, and Charlotte, my youngest. I took them to the grocery store. Mom got dropped off at home with the middle one. They got going on lunch. We ran to Hy-Vee. Could you imagine walking into a grocery store? It's something that 99% of us can't even fathom this. Could you imagine walking into your local Price Chopper, Hy-Vee, Costco, whatever you prefer to shop at, and literally seeing something that obscene? It's beyond disgusting. It's horrific. And you wonder why people didn't want to shop there. Right? I mean, it's not even, you look at it, it's not even about what the grocery store had. It's about the fact that you don't want to be in a store where, first off, you got to worry about your own security, and you got to wonder what you're going to see when you walk in. I mean, when I walk into my Hy-Vee, I'm just hoping that there's a cart there I can put the baby in. I'm not thinking about whether or not I'm seeing acts of lewdness at the front door to greet me as I'm walking into my grocery store. So a part of this, too, was the customer basically voting with their feet and saying, I'm not going here. That's why they had empty shelves, in part, because people were stealing from it. Also, they didn't have enough shoppers to keep certain goods on the shelves, and the employees as well. How about this in the Kansas City Star report? Teenage grocery shelf stockers were forced to carry tasers. Boy, you think that might be a tough gig to hire for? Yeah, kid, while you're stacking the bananas here, make sure you have your taser in your back right pocket or back left if you're left-handed. That way you can kind of do a quick jujitsu thing and spin around and start tasing people if they're about to beat you over the head and steal some bananas. This is about so much more than just trying to solve a food desert. And it's not even a food desert. I mean, when there's an Aldi 8 blocks away, I don't know how that's the definition of a food desert. And then you got the mayor saying here on social media, back on July 18th, we in New York City subsidize sports and luxury housing. I see no controversy expanding access to food in transit. I do. Because time and time again, it fails. I'm not saying I like subsidizing sports. I'm not a fan of it. In a perfect world, it wouldn't happen. I understand it's part of the game. But at least there's like civic pride that comes with subsidizing sports. At least you know that it's like a guaranteed business model that does end up making money, and there's an inherent value to having pro sports in a community. It's hard to pinpoint what exactly the dollar figure is, but it definitely exists. It's not the case with grocery stores, just not. Parkville, that's where Victor is. Go ahead, Victor. You're on KCMO.
How you doing, Pete? You know, this is all part of a bigger picture of why, quote unquote, there are these food deserts. It's because the private investment cannot absorb the crime and the security with their slim margins. So all your major producers, all your major stores, they're out of there. They can't afford it. That's why you need to have a government store to come in. But now they've shown even the government store, which is subsidized to the tune, as you put, $17 million, even they can't make it work. On top of this, this is the same kind of quote-unquote neighborhood that is screaming about police brutality, no police, defund the police. Well, then you have to police yourself. Oh, wait, you can't do that. That's why crime is so high. So maybe if you didn't want to defund the police and you let them do their job and they could put the criminals in jail if you had a decent prosecutor and you built the jail to actually put the criminals in there to get them off of the street, you might be able to bring storebacks so you wouldn't have to walk a freaking mile in the snow and the heat to get your freaking groceries, and private investment would come back. It's not that complicated, or is it?
Enough. I've had enough of this common sense from you. Goodbye, Victor. Thank you.
Sir.
Have a great day. Enough of the common sense. 30 seconds, Mike and Olathe. It's all yours.
Wow, Tirade Wednesday, Pete. What's up? Hey, listen, this is Mamdani, microcosm Mamdani's wish right here. So what if it went national? It needs to go national. This is what's going to happen, and maybe Cuomo and some of these others can get it out there, but it's just exactly what will happen, and you got weak leadership. And, hey, blue cities, man, it sort of seems to happen all the time, doesn't it?
Too frequently. Too frequently. You're right about that. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you. Coming up, we are going to have Patrick Tuohey in studio here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We are streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. We got Crime Talk, we got Frank White Talk, and more.
from the nation's heartland. It's Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
We have Patrick Tuohey with the Show Me Institute in studio on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. I just got a text here I want to read on the text line, which is 913-408-7957. Hey, Pete. Vacationing from KC and Cape Cod and listening to you guys loud and clear on the app. Cape Cod. Patrick Tuohey, you ever been there?
I went to school in Boston. I've got family from all over that area. I love it. A few years ago, I went out to Massachusetts with my daughters, and we went out to P-Town, Provincetown, at the end of the Cape, and it was a show. Lots of great people watching, and anyone who's familiar with P-Town knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, were you in your man thong out there?
Oh, no. You know what was amazing? There were so many bachelorette parties at P-Town, and you could see, my daughters and I are walking, the looks of derision and hatred on the face of the regulars in P-Town at these giggly, loud, obnoxious...
Well, that's a good place to go if you don't want to get hit on by creepy guys, because it's a big gay place.
Well, these women could have been hit, if not hit on. I mean, just kind of like the stereotypical bachelorette party. I think when we were in Cape Cod, we saw maybe 5 or 6 of them. It's a... I'm sure the locals are happy for the revenue, but they just hate that crowd.
That's good money, though, like you said. All right, places that are not producing any dollars. Sunfresh now closed at 31st and Prospect. The story's actually gotten national attention because of the stories out of New York that the leading mayoral candidate wants to basically have city-run grocery stores. So what's your take on what happened here yesterday?
May I read something I wrote 10 years ago in 2015? Once again, Kansas City leaders are embarking on an expensive and ill-considered campaign using public funds that does not address the real underlying problems. When it fails, the city and its residents will be no better off than before, just poorer. And the infrastructure, crime, and education issues that really need to be addressed will be much worse. I wrote that in 2015 in a column about the Sunfresh grocery store. Everyone knew this was a bad idea. The politicians were misleading themselves or lying to their constituents or just not thinking about it at all. But everyone, even the Kansas City Star editorial board, as you pointed out earlier, said this is not going to work, or there's a slim chance it's going to work. And this is what happens when you get politicians, political leaders who either don't understand free market, don't care to understand it, or who think that kind of top-down central planning can solve problems. It cannot. This is a nightmare, and I saw it coming, and a lot of people saw it coming, and the idea that the mayor was saying maybe last week or the week before he still wanted to salvage it, this is horrible. This is absolutely horrible. There are no winners out of this, and I don't know that the city has learned any lessons, to be honest with you.
So let me just play devil's advocate, even though I agree with everything you're saying, but just for a second.
Sure.
Is it possible that this disaster of an experiment at the Sunfresh got expedited by the fact that 2020 happened, we lost hundreds of cops in this town, and law and order went out the window?
Yes.
Is it possible that it would have had a chance had the law and order issues not really exacerbated themselves the last few years?
So, I think we've all learned about Maslow's hierarchy, right? The psychologist or sociologist who developed this kind of triangle, and at the bottom is safety and security, and then that builds upon until you get to self-actualization. Any city policy, in order for it to work, assumes that the basic services are being provided. Public safety and infrastructure. You need roads to get there, and you need the place to be safe. That's the bare minimum. Now, once that's provided, the policies on top of that, like a free grocery store, may work, may not work, right? You can talk about the economics of it and things like that. But if you don't provide those basic things, nothing works. And what happened at this grocery store is the city did not provide the basic public safety. You talked about going to the grocery store with your children a few minutes ago. The safety and security that you assume going to a Hy-Vee or to an Aldi, anywhere else in the metro area, was not provided there. Of course it was going to fail. Of course it was going to fail. Now, you can say that the millions of dollars spent on these subsidy regimes maybe played a small role in gutting the police. You can say that the same people who thought that funding a grocery store was a good idea were so bad at policy they didn't realize that policing is important. But we can all agree, conservatives and liberals, that there are things that government must do. National defense, the courts, justice system. But they're not doing it. They're not doing it in Kansas City, so nothing was going to succeed there. And even in the best of circumstances, I would argue that a city-run grocery store is a sketchy idea.
Mm-hmm. Patrick Tuohey, Show Me Institute, is on KCMO Talk Radio. So, how about the Frank White recall election? It's going to happen for Jackson County voters on September 30th. That's a Tuesday. I mean, I think it's pretty much a slam dunk. He's toast. How about you?
Yeah, I can't imagine a situation in which he's not evicted. What's the word? Recalled. Thank you.
He was evicting other people with his bad policy. That's what led to the recall.
However, and that's a great point. So people are upset about housing assessments. The people funding the campaign are upset about him not bowing down to the teams, to the Royals and the Chiefs. But I have no confidence, and nobody's even tried to argue, that if and when Frank White is removed, that any of those issues are solved more competently than Frank White would have, right? So we get rid of him. I presume the legislature is going to pick from among themselves to serve as the acting county executive. That's quite a gaggle of people.
A murderer's row of morons, as far as I'm concerned.
So I don't know that they're going to be in a position to negotiate a better deal for taxpayers. On the other hand, I can't imagine whoever is in that position, who's going to be there because of their political ambition, is going to be willing to make their first act as county executive to roll over for the Royals, right? So the Royals may want to get rid of Frank White, but I don't know that means that the replacement is going to want to be a patsy, right? Because you kind of want to demonstrate that you represent Jackson County taxpayers. It was a 16-point blowout a year and a half ago. And then the other thing is I have no confidence, no information that getting rid of Frank White is going to change anything about the assessment office in Jackson County. The assessment office in Jackson County has been a mess for long before Frank White got there.
The first thing you do is you fire the assessor, Gail McCann-Beatty, right? You do that first off. You cut the deal and you stop using Tyler Technologies out of Texas, who, did some shady things with those assessments. I mean, those are the first two things you do. You at least, I don't know, to me, you get justice for the people who have been royally hosed in this process the last multiple cycles. But you're right. I understand the broader point there. The Royals issue is still, to me, that they've got 3 final locations as far as we know, and 2 of them are terrible locations: Washington Square Park and Overland Park.
Do we know the locations? Is this breaking news?
Well, no. I mean, it's the 3 that we've talked about. Overland Park, the Hesperia campus, Washington Square Park, and North Kansas City. And 2 of those locations, as far as we can tell, are just hot garbage locations.
Yeah, I
so they don't have a place, they don't even have a place to go. Forget the politics of Jackson County. They don't even have a decent place to go right now.
No, it's a nightmare. Maybe they think we're just going to get rid of Frank White, call it a win, and then we'll come and go downtown or stay somewhere in Jackson County. It's head-scratchingly bizarre. Again, I've said before on this station and elsewhere, I want to read the book in 8 years about all this that talks to the people behind the scenes.
But you're going to write the book, right? You're a writer.
None of these people want to talk to me. But I want to read the book because this, from the outside, seems like such a spectacular series of self-owns and fumbles and unforced errors. I'm not good at sports analogies, but you get it.
You got a good one in there. A couple good ones.
Such a nightmare that it's going to be a page-turner if it's honest, because I don't think anyone, let me put it this way, no one has demonstrated to me that anyone in the Royals organization knows what they're doing. They've shed some people since the vote a year ago, some prominent people, and maybe they're all brilliant and doing all sorts of great work behind the scenes, but I don't think so. I see no evidence that they know what they want. And I think when they're looking around at the different sites that you described and maybe some others they considered, they realize they do not want to leave Jackson County because these other opportunities present risk, a lot of cost for themselves to bear, and having to go through the vote of Clay County, a more conservative county than Jackson. if I were them, I wouldn't be confident that any of these other paths are viable. So again, I don't know. I have no insight. Nobody's whispering in my ear. I'm just like your listeners, kind of reading as much as I can. And I don't see the there.
You agree, though, last thing here, that Frank's recall has nothing to do with him being against the teams.
No, I don't agree with that. I think people are going to vote on housing and the assessments.
Correct.
The people who funded the campaign that got us here, absolutely, it's about the teams, the Royals, the stadium.
Who?
Well, the heavy constructors and the organizations around that. All the people that Quentin Lucas solicited secret money from so he could go to Super Bowls and buy tuxedos and stuff like that. All those people are kind of a cabal that want to get rid of Frank White. They raised a bunch of money. They called me, incredibly, trying to raise some money. So we are here because of the stadiums. Now, where we go from here...
But the regular people were caring about their assessments, not the stadiums.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. But again, the important part is they wouldn't have gotten here by themselves.
Yes.
The fans of
Someone's
the teams
bankrolled it. Someone's got to
Exactly.
fund it. You're right. It's not... Everyone likes to talk about grassroots. Most things grassroots fail. They need money behind them. You're right about that.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Big dark money. Thank you so much.
Dark money. Patrick Tuohey on KCMO with the Show Me Institute. 3 questions on a What If Wednesday we'll get to next on KCMO.
Stream Mundo in the morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
8:51 on a Wednesday morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Let's do it.
KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7. It's time for What If Wednesday.
What if, instead of having you on this radio station, there was somebody else?
All right, John Anthony, 3 questions on a What If Wednesday. What is on the rundown, my man?
All right, sir. What if Taylor Swift is getting the last laugh against the haters?
Well, she's cashing this check, and she's taking it all the way to the bank. I love how Taylor ended this teaser for tonight's New Heights podcast. She's going to appear with the Kelsey Bros. First time she's doing any podcast, as far as I can tell. And she's announced a new album, and she's able to make fun of herself in the process. There's nothing more appealing from the rich and famous than self-deprecation. And say what you want about Taylor Swift, but she nails it in this promo. Let's roll it.
For like 47 seconds that was so nice. That was so
Tay
sweet.
welcome to New Heights.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on my favorite podcast. As we all know, you guys have a lot of male sports fans that listen to your podcast.
Sure.
And I think we all know that if there's one thing that male sports fans want to see in their spaces and on their screens, it's more of me.
Well delivered, too. The slight pause there. That is excellent delivery and a great line by Taylor Swift. And I don't think that was like fabricated or given to her by some PR person, because it was a natural delivery. I mean, maybe she's just a great actress. I don't know. But she nailed the delivery. It's a great line. And the Brads and Chads are going to be very upset by that. They're going to be extra, extra, extra mad because now they're going to be like, she was calling me out. No, she was also partially making fun of herself. Get over it. You're going to be okay. And if you see her for a total of 32 seconds during the home opener against the Eagles, you'll survive. I promise, John.
Touche. All right, what if a local government attempted to run a grocery store?
Well, and it might end up like Sunfresh. They're at 31st and Prospect, which shut down yesterday after getting tens of millions of dollars in subsidies over the last several years. Spending a lot of time on this morning, and it is a quintessential example of government failure, of the government thinking that it can fund a grocery store and bring food to people in a so-called food desert. And instead, all they did was waste tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer monies on something that could have gone somewhere else to help the people. Could have gone to potholes, could have gone to the police department, could have gone to anything else that would have brought value to the people of Kansas City. Instead, all it did was temporarily bring a grocery store that apparently had empty shelves by the time this thing was getting set to close anyway. I mean, look at what the reports are from Kansas City media. The last few months, the shelves were more or less barren. You had folks who were stocking shelves carrying around tasers, and you had people outside of the grocery stores committing lewd acts and right in front of customers who are walking in and out of the grocery store, and you wonder why it failed, everybody. I can't believe it, John. What a shocker.
No truth to the rumor that they filled a Prius with the unsold inventory.
Oh, that's outstanding work.
All right, sir. What if D.C. crime is not actually down 30%?
Well, here's the thing. Whether it's down 30% year over year, which is a debatable number because they had to fire the person who was in charge of calculating D.C. crime, or it is down 30%, it's more about how you look at the big picture. That's what really matters here when you talk about crime for any community in any town. Right? You can say that Washington, D.C. crime, which obviously has been a big topic this week because the president federalized their police department and brought in the National Guard. You can say crime is down 30% year over year. But if you're still up 80% from where you were, let's say 5, 6, 7 years ago, is that a good thing? If you gained 100 pounds and then in 1 year you lost 10, are you going to suddenly say you're not overweight? No, you're 90 pounds overweight. Great, you're not 100 pounds overweight, you're 90 pounds overweight. You want a medal for that? You really think that should be something that people are impressed by? No. And how about this out of Washington, D.C.? Day one of the National Guard being on the streets of D.C., they arrested 23 people. 23 people on day one. And, I mean, these are some of the worst of the worst. You have people who were arrested and suspects wanted for murder, gun offenses, and other crimes. Who's against that? Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, we've got more time for you, your calls. It's been a busy morning on that front. 913-408-7957. We'll get to more of it before Keatsman Uncanceled at 10. 9:04, we've got an hour until Keatman uncanceled. The biggest story in Kansas City that we are following is the closure of the Sunfresh grocery store at 31st and Prospect, and that's because there have been talks in major American cities about having the city run the grocery stores. And we now have a prime example of how that's worked in Kansas City. While it, yes, was privately owned, it received tens of millions of dollars in subsidies. We also, news this morning in Westport, want to touch on here, and we'll talk to a KCFD battalion chief coming up in a few minutes about a fire that broke out that sent 3 residents to the hospital in Westport. What do we know about that? We'll get to the details coming up in a few minutes on 95.7 FM. Wes is in Gladstone. Wes, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Yeah, hey, so I disagree with Patrick Tuohey about a couple things. One is someone benefited from that store. It was whoever siphoned off all the millions of dollars that were spent there, man. And, you know, that's just not coming from some crackpot north of the river. Look at Doge. Doge proved that that's what Dems do. They get taxpayer dollars and they funnel it to their NGOs. I'm calling out Tony's Kansas City to do an in-depth investigation and figure out who got the money, okay? As far as the Royals go, I think they know what they're doing, okay? They want to wait and see if they can make the playoffs this year, because that makes them a more of an attractive thing for some taxpayers to pay for a new stadium, and they can make the playoffs this year. They've been dangling a carrot the whole season. All they need is about a 9 or 10 game win streak, and the thing's going to be possible. So I think they're waiting to see if they can make the playoffs or not. And as far as Frank White goes, I did a little research, and he could be drawing as much as $200K a year in his MLB pension. And if that's the case, Frank, what the hell are you doing, man? Go enjoy life.
Yeah. Go enjoy life. It's too short.
Get the hell out of our hair and go enjoy life, man.
Yep. Now, I don't know what his actual pension deal is. I can't speak to it, Wes, but 3 good points there. You know, I'll say this much when you talk about the Royals and making the playoffs. I think there's a small subset of people that will be convinced to change their vote based on whether or not this team makes the postseason. Because first off, if you're a fan and you're like, I'll only vote for a stadium tax if they make the playoffs, like what you have to admit about this team and this ownership group is for one of the smallest markets in Major League Baseball, they have put their money where their mouth is. They're not the Tampa Bay Rays spending, $25 million to field a team when you've got teams spending 20x that like the Dodgers. They have played, or I guess you would say they've spent above their market size. They're in the middle of the pack when it comes to salary spent on players, which is much more than what their market size is, based on where Kansas City is, which is one of the smallest 5 markets in Major League Baseball. So if you're a fan, you've got to look at that and say, okay, they've done a lot of those things that I know fans have clamored for over the years. Could they always spend more? Of course. But they have done a good job on that front. So they haven't gone cheap. They're not just trying to, get a sugar high from the fan base, make the playoffs, go to a vote in November, and then hope they can basically steal, air quotes, some taxpayer money. I don't think that's what they're doing. I genuinely think they don't know what the heck they're doing in terms of where they want to be. And I think that's because they got 3 locations in North Kansas City, Washington Square Park, and Overland Park, and 2 of them stink for different reasons. Washington Square Park, they can't build what they need to around it to develop the income they claim they have to generate to justify moving. The Overland Park thing is going to smack them in the face with community blowback if they choose that spot. And I think they're just cannibalizing what already is a basically big entertainment district when you talk about 119th and Row and Knoll and places like that. And then you got North Kansas City, which is the best spot, but you got to go to a tax of the folks for Clay County, and that may be a difficult hurdle. So this morning in Westport, breaking news here, there was a fire just before 6 o'clock, three-story building, 41st in Pennsylvania, and it resulted in 3 people going to the hospital. We are happy to welcome on and get the latest from Michael Hopkins. He is a battalion chief with KCFD, joining us on KCMO. Michael, what do we know? What happened this morning down there in Westport?
Yeah, as you stated, just before 6 o'clock, we received a call of a possible structure fire at that location. When we arrived, there was heavy smoke and fire showing from a second floor of a 3-story mixed-use building. Crews immediately went interior and offensive and conducted 3 rescues, 1 from the 3rd floor and 2 from the 2nd. They were able to get those occupants out, evaluate them on scene, and they were transported to be evaluated for smoke inhalation. But all 3 were in stable condition.
Okay. Any idea yet on what started this fire?
No, they're still early on in their investigation. Crews wrapped up their fire-wise around 7, and the fire investigators took over. At this point, I have not received any information on a cause at this time.
Okay, now I know there's a tobacco shop on the 1st floor. Is that tobacco shop part of this investigation right now?
Not to my knowledge. To my understanding, the fire apartment was the 2nd floor location, while the 1st floor and the 3rd floor both received smoke and water damage. The actual fire activity was on the 2nd floor in the apartment.
Okay, is that building in stable condition? I mean, is the building itself going to be okay as far as you can tell?
To my knowledge, we ordered dangerous buildings like we always do after a structure fire, just to be safe, to get the engineers out to take a look at that sort of situation. But to my knowledge, the building itself was in good structural condition. There was just a lot of interior damage to that apartment.
Did one of the folks who ended up at the hospital, were they the ones who called 911 about this fire, or was it somebody else in the building or the area?
I do not have that information on who initially called. I do know from listening to the radio this morning as it was unfolding, dispatch was stating that they were getting multiple calls.
Okay.
So that kind of confirmed to us that there was going to be a working fire when we arrived. So, yeah, it came in from multiple sources. I don't know who the first was, though.
Any closures in the area that people should be aware of right now?
When I left that area this morning around 7, the police department did have Pennsylvania between 40th and 41st taped off. I believe they have narrowed that down, but I'm not 100% yet on whether or not that area is opened up or not.
All right. Good deal. Well, thank you very much, Battalion Chief Michael Hopkins, Kansas City Fire Department on KCMO. Appreciate the intel and the insight, and we'll stay tuned on the story. Thanks so much.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, there you go. Michael Hopkins on 95.7 FM. It's 9:12. The President of the United States is set to speak at the Kennedy Center coming up next hour. So that's a ways away, but of course we are a couple of days away from him meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska as they try to figure out an off-ramp to the Russia-Ukraine war. So if anything comes out of that, I'm sure Keatsman will have you covered here on KCMO. And like any Trump press conference, he's there to talk about X, and you know as well as I do, he's talking about everything else under the sun because he can't help himself, and the media is obviously dying to talk to him about whatever they can get their hands on because that basically runs their news cycle for the day. So we know how it works. 913-408-7957. That's how you join us. Our caller of the day at the bottom of the hour. Do not miss that. In the meantime, we've got new college rankings according to LinkedIn. Did your alma mater make the cut? Top 50 colleges in the country. We'll share that new list with you coming up next.
Call Mundo 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
LinkedIn just dropped its top colleges for 2025. And, the thing that stood out to me is not the rankings themselves. It's the obscene cost on these universities. I so believe that this model is dying and is going to change dramatically. It's already changing, but it will continue to change dramatically as these universities really just become playgrounds for the rich. That's the only conclusion I can come to as people wise up to saying, I'm not going into $200,000 in debt. And that's like on the low end. So Princeton comes in at number 1. Guess what the tuition is at Princeton University, Mark? This is not room and board. This is just the cost for a year to study at Princeton University. What's your guess?
$120,000.
Oh, wow. No, Mark, 65.
Oh, not including where you're staying?
No room and board. No room and board. $65,000 a year. So that would be $260,000. That's not room and board. That's not books. That's not a meal plan. That's not anything. That's just for the right to basically walk around on campus and study there.
Athletic plan. Everybody wants to go see their basketball team.
Yeah, is Princeton any good at hoops?
I don't know. I was going to say tennis, but I don't know.
They make the NCAA tournament once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
I've seen them in my bracket once or twice.
Yeah.
$65,000 to go to Princeton. Number 2 is Duke. $66,000. UPenn is number 3. University of Pennsylvania, $63,000. MIT at $64,000. And then rounding out the top 5 is Cornell University. In-state is $48,000 for Cornell. I didn't realize Cornell was technically a state school. The out-of-state cost for Cornell is $71,000. Once again, that is not room and board. That is not your meal plan. That is not anything else. That is just the tuition at $71,000 a year. You tell me, who in their right mind, unless you're getting scholarships, you tell me who is going to spend that kind of money. If you are that bright that you can get into Cornell, you're getting a free ride at KU, at K-State, or Mizzou, or anywhere else, probably in Kansas or Missouri. Now, you may want to go to one of these schools because you do, at the elite of the elite, rub elbows with U.S. senators' kids and CEOs of Fortune 500 companies' kids. And, you definitely get a roadmap into the elite of society, which can help you with jobs and things of that nature. There is some value in that. But is it really to the tune of $71,000 a year? Harvard, by the way, didn't make the top 5. It came in at number 6 on this list, followed by Babson College in Massachusetts, Notre Dame at 8, Dartmouth at 9, and Stanford rounding out the top 10. All these tuitions. And then the closest one to us is Northwestern coming in at number 11. I thought that WashU might be on the list, but it's not on the top 25 here. Not on it, according to LinkedIn, for whatever that's worth, John. Maybe because they're transing the kids too much over there at WashU.
What about Slippery Rock?
People
used to always call for that score on the college scoreboard just to make the guy look it up.
Don't see no sign of Slippery Rock on here.
Okay.
Villanova came in at 23, but I promise you this, my kids are not going there.
What about me and Frank at old Baker University?
I thought Baker...
hit the top 100 maybe?
I thought Baker might crack it because of Frank Bisignano, your buddy. Now he's running Social Security. But I do not see Baker in the top 50 here, John.
Okay.
It's MIA. They might have just missed it, though. It's coming out next year in the top 25 when they redo the list. Frank's taking some time to make sure they make the list next year.
You did the NCAA schools. We're still NAIA as far as I know.
Yeah, that's a good point. But, I'm just looking at these, and I'm saying to myself, gosh, I'm getting anxiety just looking at this list as someone who's got to send kids to college one day.
You just got to take the free courses at Harvard.
Well,
that's what you got to do.
You know what? you become a Harvard grad like Mark.
Yes.
And then next thing you know, you're a movie star on Ted Lasso. Look at that. Unbelievable. Look at you, my man. Now, speaking of fellow stars, I have never heard of this acronym before. EGOT, E-G-O-T. Have you heard of this EGOT acronym in show business?
I have heard it, but I don't remember what it is.
Okay. Well, the EGOT, and I'm reading this from NBC News. Beyonce is halfway to the EGOT with her first Emmy win. So that means that she's...
Yeah, I remember now what it is.
Earned a Grammy.
Mm-hmm.
She's won many Grammys. She's now earned an Emmy this week for her Beyonce Bowl halftime show. So she needs a Tony and an Oscar.
Yep.
To score, is it EGOT or just EGOT status? I don't know.
I've heard it as EGOT.
EGOT?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Jennifer Hudson has it.
Oh, does she have it?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
One of the few.
Well, you know they're going to make sure that Beyonce gets hers, right? I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Hollywood will basically rig the game to make sure Beyonce gets hers. This whole country music thing that she's on right now is such a joke and an insult to country music, but Hollywood loves it because they know deep down it's tweaking real country music fans.
Tough one, though. We've got to get the stage performance there for the Tony and the Oscar for the movie.
Yeah, I know. You know?
Boy, it's going to be a stretch.
She's going to get there, though.
It'll be the movie version of the stage presentation starring Beyonce. So we'll just kill two birds with one stone.
That's right. That's right. Mark, you got EGOT status in your future, man. Now that you're a budding television star, you already got the radio side down.
Yeah.
Radio doesn't really count for this EGOT award, but, you know, you're in show business and you're making waves, my man.
It's tough to do, but I'll try for it.
Yeah, you will. You're going to make it. Something tells me. In the meantime, some breaking news here as well. Speaking of big money, folks, we were just talking about the cost on these colleges. Let's go to KU. If you didn't see this, David Booth, obviously longtime big donor at the University of Kansas, he has given a $300 million gift to KU. This news breaking this morning. Pete Thamel at ESPN reporting that it is believed to be among the largest single gifts in the history of college athletics. KU officials tell Pete Thamel and Max Olson at ESPN. They're on the verge of opening up that new stadium. That'll be coming up next Saturday. Mark is going to be there. They're playing Wagner College, Mark.
They're going to be Fresno State's the first game.
Oh, Fresno State. Sorry.
State,
They got Wagner in week 2, right?
Yes, that's right.
All right. I used to be the voice of Wagner football.
Oh, nice.
That was one of my old play-by-play jobs. So I would have been making this trip out to KU. But they are playing Fresno State in week 1. Mark is going to be there. You'll see the revamped stadium, and now they'll figure out what to do with a $300 million gift from David Booth.
Technically, you're right. It is week 1 because week 0 is Fresno State.
Okay. All right. That stupid week 0 thing they're still doing. Just call it week 1, okay? If you're playing games, that's week 1. Enough of the week 0 nonsense.
The
Stop.
Wagner Minutemen? What's their deal?
The Wagner Seahawks.
Seahawks.
Yes.
Well, there you go, Mark.
UMass, I think, they're the Minutemen up in Massachusetts, which, boy, the jokes just write themselves, don't they? For the Minutemen at UMass. What are you? I'm a Minuteman. Well,
sorry to hear that. They make pills for that. Keep listening.
Heartland Men's Health, they'll have you lasting an hour or more. The caller of the day on the story of the day in Kansas City, coming up next.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
It is that time of the morning. Our caller of the day tied into our story of the day, and that is the Sunfresh 31st in Prospect closing its doors yesterday after tens of millions of dollars in subsidies going back nearly 10 years from the taxpayers in Kansas City, Missouri. And finally, after months and months of empty shelves, months of employees having to carry tasers as they're stocking those empty shelves with whatever they can, lewd acts happening outside of the grocery stores, customers getting robbed. Finally, enough was enough. It was a failed experiment, a colossally failed experiment of the government trying to prop up a grocery store, and it led to our caller of the day.
It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day on KCMO Talk Radio. Now on FM at 95.7.
Steven is on KCMO. What's up, Steven?
Hey, Doc, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How's that wind tunnel there?
I'm living. I live my windows up. Sorry. It's good to hear your voice. I hadn't talked to you in a while. I just want to say that I grew up in the neighborhood. I go back to that neighborhood back from the 70s when St. Joseph Medical Center was on that site where that store was back in the 70s. And that neighborhood has digressed a great deal. And they sweep stuff under the rug and don't deal with issues that keep causing symptoms. Like, for instance, when the lady that owned it at one time, they were having problems with people coming in there shooting up the store, and then when the police would get involved, I won't call no names, but you got some of the political organizations down there was mad with the police because the police was too rough on the guys. They didn't have to slam them to the ground, all that. Just recently, I guess it's been like in the last 4 or 5 months, there was a young man that was in there. He had a gun, and the policeman took him to the ground. This is a black policeman. And he took him to the ground, and he, you know how you lay on a person and hold him down. And we was in a meeting, and one of the community leaders was making a big issue about that, telling me he had to do that like that. You can't have it both ways. You want justice and you want safety, but then you get mad when they're doing their job. And so this is the result of liberalism and no structure. And so it doesn't surprise me it went that way. I'm surprised it didn't go away that way earlier. You know what I mean? And then the employees got to come to work. If they be a witness to what's going on, they're threatened by the people that they haven't arrested.
Yeah,
that's why they didn't want to come to work.
Steven is our caller of the day, as always, making great points on KCMO Talk Radio. He's spot on. You cannot fix these neighborhoods by saying the government is going to subsidize a grocery store. And at the very base level, I'll actually say this much. If we didn't have the rampant crime issues that the city has dealt with and has gotten worse over the last 5 years since 2020, the grocery store still might be open. I mean, if we didn't have massive amounts of police officers leave the job in recent years, retire early, retire in general, not be able to recruit at the same levels to replicate and replace those lost officers, might have had a chance. But you got a short-staffed police department. You've got a prosecutor or had a prosecutor leading a department in Jackson County that was wildly incompetent and didn't want to prosecute lower-level crimes, which led to more issues in places like that Sunfresh. And while I think the current prosecutor hopefully is going to get things trending in the right direction, that's going to take time. If those things didn't happen, the Sunfresh still might be open. It might have had a chance. But if you're going to continue to go down the left-wing rabbit hole of really bad policy decisions, defund the police, or just not encourage police to work in your community, not have strong prosecutors, then you get all these ancillary bad folks and things happening outside of like a Sunfresh at 31st and Prospect. That leads to the place being robbed. That leads to people being unsafe, including the employees. And then eventually the whole thing's going to implode. And that's what happened here. In the meantime, across the state line, I saw this in the Kansas City Star and I wanted to share it with you. The headline is, Meet the Johnson County Moms Leading the Push to Make a Sprawling Suburb Walkable. And I was trying to not get annoyed when I saw the headline. I was doing my best. I really didn't want to do it. I know.
I'm getting pissed now.
I didn't want to do it. I didn't. But I can't help but see that headline and say, what did you expect? What did you think you were getting when you moved to Leawood? And that's what this story is about. You're already laughing, John. I haven't even told the story. You know where it's going.
Well, I have my old man observations. We've got sidewalks in Grandview. They've been there for 50, 60 years. Nobody uses them. The idiots walking the streets with their dogs pushing the baby carriage. I'm like, God, there's a sidewalk over there. Use it.
When Kylie Markey lived in Brookside, she says she practically raised her young kids on the sidewalks. But when she hopped the state line to Leawood 5 years ago, Markey said she was surprised by how difficult it was to continue to use her preferred modes of transportation in the wealthy suburban city. Then stay in Brookside. You left Brookside for a reason. You came to Leawood. I don't know what you expected. If it was that important to have walkability, you don't leave Brookside. But here's a little wink, wink, nod, nod. They left Brookside for a reason. It's sad, but Brookside has not been trending in the right direction like too many other neighborhoods. So when you have the ability to pick up and move, whether it's because you want your kids to go to a decent public school, whether it's because you want a little more safety and security, you're getting the sense that your neighborhood might be trending in a bad direction, as we well know with all the break-ins that are happening in Brookside. You then go to Leawood, and then you complain about how Leawood's not Brookside. Leawood is one of, obviously, the most sought-after communities in the entire Kansas City region, maybe the entire Midwest. And to be like, I moved here and we must change it. I want it to be more like Brookside. A lot of people move to Leawood because they just like how Leawood is. They like Leawood for what Leawood is. So the story goes on the note that while her family still bikes, she says it's different now. Yeah, no kidding. And apparently she's not alone. She's among a cohort of Leawood residents, mostly mothers of young children, who are advocating for better connectability in the northern part of the city. They want community spaces reachable by safe biking or walking routes where they can interact with their neighbors. How about you invite your neighbor over to your house?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Why is it the job of the city of Leawood to basically make you a playground? Why? You know, we live in a neighborhood that actually doesn't have sidewalks. We have, in our neighborhood, there are trails behind the homes, and it creates a very communal experience. At first, I was freaked out by it. I'm like, wait, there's going to be random people walking behind my house. I don't like this.
Are these paved?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
okay,
they're
my
paved.
mom lives in an area like that.
They're paved. They're behind
the back
homes.
of the houses. There's a whole big commons area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's actually been really nice. You kind of bump in the neighbors you might not otherwise bump into. People are in their backyards. I was weirded out by it at first, but I came to like it. But as a result, if we walk in the street with the kids, the streets are wide in the neighborhood, but there technically are no sidewalks, so you have to be careful. But you know that when you move in, right? Is it ideal when you got little kids? No, but I chose to move there, so I'm not going to complain about it. I made a decision to move to a place. I knew what the restrictions were. I knew how it was set up. To then come out and be like, I don't like this and I'm going to change it. We're not talking about a safety issue here, right? We're not talking about, hey, like there's crime here, I want to change that. That's admirable. We're talking about basically a bunch of moms who want to have a little playground. And what they want to do and where they're looking at is the old City Hall and fire station buildings in Leawood that they want to turn into a gathering place. And I'm not opposed to the general idea, but what I don't like is the fact that what you're going to have is these municipalities, and it doesn't matter which one you're talking about in Johnson County, they're all the same at this point, find a reason to spend more money. What will come with that is tax increases, and they'll use the excuse of, we're creating this great state-of-the-art facility, park, gathering location, and the Kansas City Star is propping up the people that are trying to push it on citizens who may not want it. And you know as well as I do, it's going to be, the moms who get their way. And I'm married to a young mom. I'm not against young moms. I'm just simply saying Please do not ask your government right now to do more. Don't give them a reason. In this environment, when they're jacking up property taxes 5 to 10% a year, we're getting lucky with only a 5% hit this year in many parts of Johnson County. Don't give them a reason to keep increasing that bill. Because you know what comes along with this, right? Maintenance, employees, more spending, more upkeep. It's always the same old game, and it's the same old formula. And if the walkability of Brookside was that important, then you know what else? I mean, Prairie Village is very walkable, right around the corner, right? There are other walkable areas. But to move somewhere willingly and then complain about it, that I have no sympathy for, none whatsoever. Mark has printed out a press release, or I shouldn't say a press release. I guess you would call it, what do you want to call that thing that you just printed out there, Mark?
That almost seems like a permission slip.
Yeah.
Of sorts.
Mark has printed out a permission slip that he is going to hand to his wife tonight. We'll tell you what that permission slip is for as we wrap up the show coming up next.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
Today's a big day for Mark. He's been tasked with something that nobody else on this show has to do today. He's going to do the heavy lifting, and he is going to watch, listen, consume the New Heights podcast that will drop today with, of course, Jason and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. So, Mark, this is going to be a big deal. It will drop tonight at, 6 o'clock Central Time, right?
Yep.
And you are basically going to be begging your wife. You're going to be begging on your hands and knees to watch this thing in more or less real time when it comes down. Correct?
That's right.
All right. So you got a permission slip?
Yes.
All right. Read it to me. What are you putting out there to her today?
All right. This is from the New Heights Twitter and Facebook page. They had this so I could print it out. To whom it may concern, please excuse Mark from any responsibilities on Wednesday, August 13th at 6 p.m. Central. Don't blame me. Blame Taylor Swift. She will be appearing on the New Heights podcast. When New Heights went on a break, I was feeling delicate. Taylor being on New Heights is beyond my wildest dreams. Will you please excuse me from my absence so I can be ready for it? We don't want any bad blood, like ever.
Thank you for your attention to this matter. You must add that to the permission slip.
They add a little Taylor Swift lyric there at the end. So.
What is the lyric?
Bad Blood's one of her songs, and then she says, like ever.
Like
we are
ever.
Never getting back together.
You know, they got to rewrite it with a thank you for your attention to this matter. That's what they need to do. Can you tweak
put that
it?
at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
I can write it in there.
Please, put it at the bottom of it. Hand it to your wife when you get home, and let's see how that goes for you. All right?
I already have the plan, though, because Brielle has youth group tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Starts at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be about 30 minutes late, but I drop her off at youth group. And instead of going home, I just sit in the parking lot, listen to the whole podcast, and then I'm right there to pick her up at the end of the night.
Oh, wow. Dad of the year. He's going to be right in the parking lot listening to New Heights while the oldest is at youth group.
That's
there you
right.
go. You got it all mapped out, man.
The only trouble is if I have to bring the baby with me, I'm going to have to wear wear headphones because I can't have her hearing that language.
Do they curse a lot on that show?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
See, I figured they wouldn't do a lot of that. I've listened to clips. I've never actually listened to it all the way through on one episode. But I figured they would avoid that, but I guess not.
They tried to for a little bit, and then they just kind of joked about it, and they're like, yeah, we'll just throw $1 whenever we say a cuss word, and they just throw a ton of money in it.
Mark, your youngest isn't going to understand. She's what? Not even 2 years old.
That's true.
You're
She's
fine.
like 20 months.
Yeah, you're fine. She's not going to know what's going on. So just roll with it, man.
Thank you for calling dispatch. What's in the nature of your call? There's a guy with a beard sitting in a car for about an hour with his baby, and he's like laughing.
See,
how long has he been there?
Oh, man.
Usually I just listen to the podcast and I don't watch it on YouTube, but I kind of want to watch it on YouTube to see their reactions to each other.
Yeah, that's the one time watching the video might actually be valuable. You're right about that. All right, Mark. Well, good luck tonight, and please do text us the big news that comes out of the show, okay?
Will do.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll leave you with Justice Horny. He is a local candidate. He tries to run for a bunch of different seats. He loses every time, and he came to be a fairly prominent figure during the riots and protests of 2020. He's never, as far as I know, won anything of note locally, but now he's running for Jackson County legislature. I think he ran for that a couple of years back and lost to Manny Abarca. So talk about, boy, a tallest midget one right there. That's it. Manny Abarca or Justice Horn, what are you going to do? So Justice Horn put up on his Facebook that he was harassed when he was going door to door around Jackson County. And he alleged it was because of his race. He is at least part black, fully black. I don't really know, but he obviously is some kind of black, fully quarter. I don't know, but he's black. He also happens to be gay. You may recall a couple of years ago, he was running for office, and he claims one of his signs was defaced. Somebody wrote a homophobic slur on one of his signs around town. Now, of course, that's wrong, but this is now the second time that he has brought up the possibility of him being the victim of either a racial attack or, as it was a few years ago, a homophobic attack. And I don't know what's true and what isn't, but if this guy is basically Justice Smollett, it wouldn't shock me one bit.
See what you did there.
It wouldn't shock me one bit. Because the guy's only in the news when he's claiming to be the victim of some kind of hate crime. So take it all with a grain of salt. I'm not saying there aren't bad people out there who are still racist and homophobic and whatnot in 2025. Yeah, they exist. But when you happen to be the person running for office and every time you run for office, something like that happens to you, I don't know. I'm going to put up my spidey senses. That's just me. Keatsman Uncanceled has you for the next hour. Have a great day. We're back tomorrow morning.